Hey guys, this is Comic Uno and Comic Frontline, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode 194, and that's show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. We go worst pick of the week, we go best pick of the week, so let's get started. Actually, this is a really light week for me. I only had 13 comics. Next week is also a light week, and then we'll probably pick it up again with a bigger haul. But let's get started. Number 13 is Ben Reilly, The Scarlet Spider, issue 2. Yeah, I'm still not liking this book very much. Ben Reilly's just not a likable character, even as a villain. I think you could have a book about a villain and make him understand his motives a bit. Here he's very mustache-twirling villain, and he doesn't really have any of the essence of what Ben Reilly was. And I'm not a hardcore Ben Reilly fan, and I'm saying that. So, the artwork was really good, though. I enjoyed the art. That's why I did give it 2 stars. But just not interested in the story at all. Even Kane doesn't really bring any real essence to the book. So, Ben Reilly, The Scarlet Spider, issue 2 gets 2 stars, sadly. And that is number 13. Now, moving on to number 12, which is Detective Comics issue 957. So, as a Stephanie Brown fan, I was very disappointed with this book, because I feel like she's also very out of character. She's a character that's always fought to be a hero, and she is also very much the hope of the Bat family, so it's kind of weird that she's the character that's dismantling hope. And I feel like with this book, it's more of, instead of let's make Stephanie Brown do this because her character, it makes sense for her to have these actions. Instead, I feel like it was just this dartboard, and it's like, alright, which character should we pick? Oh, Stephanie, okay, that's good. So it feels like a random character they picked to do this storyline, and that's disappointing, and I feel like they don't really inject her personality at all, and that's another reason why I feel like it's more of a random character than them actually wanting Stephanie to be this character to dismantle hope in Gotham. But I did like the artwork. I think it was really improved from that last arc, which was really dark and heavy inked. So Detective Comics issue 957 gets 2.5 stars. Still very disappointed where Stephanie Brown's been going, especially in the Spotlight issue for her. Alright, moving on to 11, which is a book I tried out from IDW, and that is Saucer Country, issue 1. So this is about this president of the United States who was abducted by aliens. So she has to figure out what the aliens want, and she was abused by these aliens, so you see that trauma throughout the issue, and we also see how this is connected to her ex-husband, because her ex-husband was also abducted, and how she's going to deal with this as the president, and if she's going to tell people, the American people, about this. Now, I feel like this was a really interesting concept. Artwork was also really solid. I liked the artwork, but the story's execution kind of got boring. Like, I liked the beginning, it was like, oh, cool, alright. She was abducted by aliens, but then it just gets really political and execution wise, it's very execution heavy, so I couldn't get the hook I wanted to with this book. But overall, I'm going to give it 3 stars because I like the art, and like I said, the concept was interesting. Alright, we are moving on to number 10, which is Action Comics issue 980. Which just isn't in my vein, just I'm not a hardcore Superman fan, and I feel like hardcore Superman fans will like this more, because it's about Cyborg Superman, like bringing all these villains together. But for me, it's kind of fan-servicey. It's like, alright, let's bring all these villains together just because. It doesn't really feel like there's a big motive. But I did like that they mentioned Ma and Pa Kent, like Superman feeling guilty that they're not alive, so I like that. And also the small moments with Lois and John and Clark was nice, but it's just a small moment. So, and artwork is solid, but overall I wasn't really impressed with this as someone that's not a hardcore fan of Superman. So Action Comics issue 980 gets 3 stars. Moving on to number 9, which is Wonder Woman issue 23, which also I think is a bit heavy for people that like the Greek mythology side of Wonder Woman. It's pretty much Ares using this as exposition of explaining why Wonder Woman doesn't remember Themyscira. And we get to see that Wonder Woman sees Themyscira for the last time and has to say goodbye to her mother. And I also really like Veronica Cale here, where she has to say goodbye to her daughter, who if she went back to Earth, would not have a life. She would be the same that she was before. She wouldn't be able to interact with anybody. So in Themyscira, she would have her whole self, and that's why Veronica Cale lets her go. And I thought that was a really emotional scene, especially how much they built up Veronica Cale throughout this story arc. So and the artwork was really cool because it kind of felt like a storybook in the way that Liam Sharp formatted it. So I liked that. I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, overall, like I said, there's still a lot of Greek mythology that's heavy here as Ares is explaining things, and that gets a little daunting, but I like the issue overall. So I'm going to give Wonder Woman issue 23 3.5 stars. Alright, moving on to number 8, which is Deathstroke issue 19, which is part 3 of the Lazarus Contract. And I like the Deathstroke family stuff. You know, that's something that the actual Deathstroke series does very well, and I'm glad that the story arc brought that, where Deathstroke feels guilty about all his children, you know, Rose being hurt. And I like that they brought back the Dick Grayson trained Rose and exactly why. We knew that Dick Grayson trained Rose here, but I like that. I like that they brought that back. And then we get to see Jericho interacting with Wally, which was cool, because if you're, you know, old school Teen Titans fan, Jericho was part of the Teen Titans, so that was interesting. And then by the end of the issue, Deathstroke is able to see Grant again, so that was cool. But still, I feel like they're trying to do a lot here, and that's the disappointing part, is I think they did a good job with Deathstroke's story, but the actual Teen Titans stuff, I feel like it's just all that the team just like waiting. They're like, alright, Wally, it's time to yell at you. And that's pretty much it. They're not doing much for this crossover, and that's disappointing. So I kind of wish they had more time. I feel like they tried to squeeze too much story into just these 3 issues. So that's kind of a disappointment for the book. But I do think this is the strongest issue yet, with solid artwork and a good story with Deathstroke. So Deathstroke issue 19 gets 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 7, which is Batgirl issue 11, which I was kind of disappointed with, but I also liked moments in the issue. I'm disappointed with Penguin's son. You know, I think they built him up really well, and then by the end he just kind of fizzles as this bratty kid, and I wanted more from him, and it was just kind of a relationship drama thing they built into it, and I didn't really like that. But I love that Batgirl dresses up as Dick Grayson to make him jealous, pretty much. I love that scene. That was so cool. Let me show you that. So, Barbara's able to trick him, and I like the way they executed that. I thought the final battle was pretty good. So yeah, there's some positives and negatives here. I did like the artwork too, of course. But the villain himself kind of fizzles by the end. So Batgirl issue 11 gets 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 6, which is Elektra issue 4, and this would have been higher if there wasn't 2 artists on the book. It was the artist on the first set, or the first half of the issue, doesn't have as much clean line work as the other artists that we've seen. Like, you could see that he does like very small lines and makes it look kind of pebbly. The artwork. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but I didn't really like the line work there. But I like this issue. I enjoyed it because it shows how Elektra could be a tactful fighter. And she has to use her wits to kind of get through the levels of arcade. And it kind of feels like a video game, because Elektra has to go through different levels to save her friend. But I will say the plot is kind of slow, because all that really happens is this point A to point B story of Elektra going through levels and finding her friend. And now she has to save her friend. So, I mean, if you don't read this issue, you'll kind of know what's going on, because not a lot happens. But the way they get there is fun and interesting. So, overall, I've been really liking this series. But the artwork was the point where this was a little lower. So Elektra issue 4 gets 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 5, which is Jean Grey issue 2. Now this issue I enjoyed for the character moments. I like the character moments here, where we get to see different characters that were influenced by the Phoenix Force, see how their relationship was with the Phoenix, because Jean is fearful and paranoid, and and she doesn't know who to turn to. And they're like, nope, the Phoenix is as bad as they say. So I like that. And I really liked Hope, because I love Hope's character, and I feel like we don't see her enough after the whole Messiah complex stuff. So I'm glad to see her back and being so much like her dad, just getting all these guns and shooting people. So I thought that was cool. So the character moments were good. There were times when the artwork wasn't as good because there's so many characters in a panel, and that kind of made it crowded at times. And also I don't think the coloring really meshed well. I think there's a lot of different colors going on, and like I said, it didn't mesh well. So overall I gave this 3.5 stars. Also, I'm a little fearful of the formulaicness of the book. I'm afraid it's just going to be Jean going to different people in the Marvel Universe saying, hey, what's the Phoenix Force all about? But Dennis Hopeless does such a good job with the character work, I might not mind that. So Jean Grey issue 2 gets 3.5 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is The Beauty, issue 15, which has been a big improvement of the book. I'm glad that they went back to their main characters, and we get to learn a little bit more about our 2 detectives. So our female detective, we learned that she lost her sister 2 years ago. So we see kind of this downward spiral of her and her depression come into the issue, and how her relationship with her partner kind of helps her through. And I like that we have that outing between her partner's wife and her just like being friends and being able to talk. And this is also as the mystery unfolds of who this murderer is of the Beauty, and the murderer tries to kill one of the TV hosts that the detectives have been working with. So overall, there's a lot of interesting storyline here that develops the characters really well and also develops the mystery. So The Beauty issue 15 gets a solid 4 stars, and that is number 4. Alright, we are moving on to number 3, which is XMen Blue. Oh man, one of them fell, of course. Okay. XMen Blue, issue 4. And this has been a big improvement for me, because I've been kind of lukewarm on XMen Blue, but I love what they did with the Ultimate Universe here, bringing in Jimmy Hudson, which we knew he was in the story, but him not remembering the Ultimate Universe or our X-Men here, because supposedly they met, and I think it was in Battle of the Atom. I forgot. It's been a really long time. So I'm like, oh yeah, they do met. I kind of remember that. So that was cool. And I like this sheriff character that comes along and wants to help them because Jimmy helped her. And I hope she could become a character, because it'd be nice to have a human character in this too. I would like that. I think that could change the dynamic a bit. I also think that they gave shared time to all the team members, which was nice. I feel like that's something also they were struggling with, and it was mostly just Jean and Magneto. But I like this a lot. The ending was cool. We get to see some other Ultimate characters, and yeah, it was a solid book. So X-Men Blue issue 4 gets 4 stars. Moving on to number 2. I wish I got this printed, but my store didn't have it. There's 2 awesome variant covers, but the Archies issue 1. I wanted that Beatles cover so bad. The one that is a homage to the Beatles Cirque du Soleil love CD. I would love to get that. Hopefully I will. So I'm a big Beatles fan, so I would like that. And they also did one that is like red and white, which I guess is an homage to the White Stripes, so that was also a cool cover. So going into the Archies, issue 1, it's about Archie trying to create a band, which we know the Archies is Jughead, Reggie, Betty, Veronica, and of course Archie. And Archie is, you know, a perfectionist. He wants everything to go well, and that kind of pushes his friends away. And by the end, he's able to make up with his friends after they join Reggie's band and, you know, have a good performance, even if everything doesn't go perfect. And I love this because you could tell, you know, the writer's love for music and, you know, all these references that are dropped, and just the way to shape a band was really fun. And Joe Eisman's artwork was great for this book. I loved it. It was a solid book that has to do with friendship and music, and it was so much fun. So it was a really well worth one shot. So I gave this one 4 stars, and that is number 2. Now moving on to number 1, an easy pick of the week for me, and that was The Normals issue 1. And this is from Aftershock Comics, and this was really cool. This was a fun book because we get to see this normal family, the Normals, and we learn that they're robots in the end of the issue. That this family who, you know, they seem perfect. They also have their troubles, but they seem like the perfect family. And our main character sees his son have this wire pop out of his head, and the wife kind of gets angry at first and says, "Why would you want to cause trouble?" You know. So I thought, oh well, the wife is kind of related to this, but Then the wife sees the stamp of whatever it is, like, oh yeah, there's something wrong. Let's go back home and maybe we'll figure it out. So they go back home. It's like upstate New York, small town. Everyone knows each other. But no one knows them until the doctor that delivered their children comes and says, you guys are robots. But only to the main characters, so the other family doesn't know this. And what I loved about this issue, it's so human. You know, you really see the characterization of all 4 family members really well, but then you find out they're robots. And I think this is going to be a really human journey, though, and also the mystery of who the corporation is and why they built these robots and why when something goes wrong they have to go back home. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on in this issue. Also gorgeous artwork. I love the shadowing here, and the shading here. Thought they did that really well, and the coloring was really well done too. So the Normals issue 1 for me gets 4.5 stars, and that was my pick of the week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno on Comic Frontline. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. And please let me know in the comments below what you thought of the comic books this week. The worst pick of the week and best pick of the week and everything in between. Let me know. So I will see you guys next week. This is Comic Uno and Comic Frontline. Bye, guys.